I am going to introduce to you today's Quantum Geek, our version of Dr. Sam Beckett from the original show, and his name is Shawn Meyers, a name you may be familiar with. Shawn is with our CTO and product management group here at Tintri. He's been here quite a while. Has a great background, and if you want to do a quick introduction, Shawn, and then get into the content, welcome.
Sure. Well, thank you. Well, first of all, of course, why we chose Quantum Geek, because obviously today is Leap Day for those of us who aren't paying attention, kind of stuff. And that once every 4 years, you get an extra day, blah, 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 to keep the calendars in sync. Kind of fun. So yeah, we went with Leap Day, Quantum Leap, and then came with Quantum Geek because, well, we don't like trademark lawsuits anymore. They're no fun. So yeah. So
We
yeah,
did have one, by the way, or at least one threatened.
I'm sure we have, because
We did.
sometimes. But yeah, there's
Actually,
a whole.
that's an exercise for the viewers. If you go back into our Geek Out catalog, you may see something that is like, that's kind of close to something I remember. So we actually did have a cease and desist letter. So we had to make some changes to make it
Yeah,
acceptable. But sorry, didn't want to
yeah,
interrupt. But
yeah.
it's a funny story. So
Well, yeah. Well, fair use is always fun to do with you between, especially with fair use parody and stuff. And the law gets really fun. And I've been with multiple different organizations where we've had different types of issues with that over the years. Because, well, I mean, come on, we all enjoy this and we find it fun, and it makes the sessions more entertaining. But back to me. So I've been at Tintri now for going on 4.5 years. And so it has been a while, kind of stuff. I mean, it's not a super long time. I'm not like OG like Steve here, who's been here well over a decade. Before that though, I've been a consultant. I've run IT shops. I've done all kinds of different things. I've got lots of experience, and I tell people I've been like, well, databases. I do a lot of database work, and I've been doing databases plus for 40 plus years. I built my first database in '82. Granted, I was a kid and my dad was a programmer and made me go learn about databases. So I was actually created a database for my mom's Hummel collection, if you remember those little figurine things, and because she used to buy and sell and trade those things.
now, what database program did you use?
I used DBase 2 on a CPM operating machine. CPM as the
Wow.
operating systems on a old Osborne one, those little luggable sewing machine
Yeah.
thing. So
Oh my
yeah,
gosh.
so I've
Wow.
been doing computers for a long, 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 long time. So yeah. All right, so a couple introduction things on this. We're going to talk about the Tintri Automation Toolkit, um, kind of stuff. And of course, when I talk about the Tintri Automation Toolkit, a lot of times I'll say PSDK, which is basically PowerShell Toolkit, mostly because all other vendors, tend to have a PSDK for their Pro Tools and stuff. And I just want to go, this is a 101 session, just as a 100 level kind of stuff to get you introduced to this. So if you're already writing like 50, 100, 200 line, PowerShell scripts to do stuff, you're probably not going to learn a lot here. We're just going to show you basically the simple one-liners and give you some of the concepts of other things you can accomplish with that to improve your tasks. My goal with this basically is to let you know how cool and amazing and powerful the Tintri Automation Toolkit is. Um, give you some idea on the framework and stuff, and then basically again we're adding things to your toolbox to allow you to script or automate repetitive tasks. Because as we talk about it, with Tintri all the time is, the most valuable thing we do is it's a task you no longer have to do. Hey, if I can, instead of doing it once every, say, half an hour a week, if I can script it now and now it's just done all the time, I don't have to worry about it. You know, Plus some
Well,
people
we're
like
all
to have
being asked to do more with less, right?
exactly,
So tools like this can be invaluable.
exactly. And of course, all these things will plug into whatever automation suites you have today, i.e., if you're using any kind of DevOps or CDCI or CI/CD kind of tool set tools out there. Basically all those will allow you to load PowerShell scripts into it to go run them. Plus, of course, we do also have a full REST API, which we're not going to cover today. At the end of the day, we're just going to walk through getting started, basically how to get it ready, set up and loaded and stuff. I'm going to cover some simple tasks, some basic things, simple one-liners, and then some not so simple tasks. And then we're going to go into some of our other resources. Actually, I'll probably just cover the other resources because in the days it's just our GitHub. So for those who are not used to PowerShell or using toolkits for automation and scripting kind of stuff, this is one of the things I ran into a while ago. I'm like, what, this is actually good to hear, because we have concepts that set a goal and I achieve it. I should be straight line. Okay, every time I move along. But in reality, any new technology you're learning, whether it be running virtualization, doing Kubernetes, doing new AI stuff, as everybody I'm sure is hearing from their bosses. Well, what are we doing for AI? The roadmap is just it's all over the place because we set a goal, we're trying to start to learn it, we figure it out, and we have problems. The failing process is when a lot of people burn out and quit, but then again, at some point we actually grasp it and then we can achieve it. This is kind of helpful for everybody to visualize what things are like and knowing it's not a simple learning technology is not just a simple linear process. All right. So everyone here probably has heard of PowerShell, and what they may not understand what the difference between PowerShell is versus PowerShell Core. So the shortest, simple version basically is PowerShell is an application that runs as part of the Windows operating system. PowerShell Core is now a container that runs on your machine basically and has all the exposure processes, but it's a simple container. It's a self-contained process. And the cool thing is you can run it on Windows, Linux, and Mac. Why that's important for us is we have multiple customers who refuse to run Windows for different various reasons. And before the PowerShell, our toolkit was only available in PowerShell. You couldn't run it on a Windows box or on a Linux box or a Mac. You had to have a Windows box to go do that. And so now the latest version here, we support PowerShell Core, which makes your updates for it much simpler. Our rollouts kind of stuff as we do upgrades, you just pull the latest updates from the container process, and it's now automated. So now you can run the latest and greatest all the time. So as we have improvements or fixes and bugs, that process runs smoother. So we call it basically an image pool process, and that's just the crux of it. There's a lot more in there, but we're not really going to cover most of that. This is not a PowerShell class. This is a Tintri automation toolkit, overall demo. So you want to get started? Not sure how to get started. Well, first thing, you got to get a copy of the code. Well, let's just go play with this process. I like to show demos. It's much more fun than actually looking at slides. No one likes slides. But you go to the Tintri support portal. Also, FYI, this is the PDF for it on the we have a good document, Tintri Automation Toolkit, Quick Start Guide. But support portal, log in. Come on.
You mentioned CPM earlier. Is it fair to say that PowerShell is an interpretive programming language?
Yeah,
Or
PowerShell
is that taking it too far?
Nah, yeah, I mean, in the day, PowerShell is the Windows version of Bash or Corn if you're a Linux person. Now, saying that, Bash and Corn have been around much longer and are much more robust, but the person who ran the PowerShell project for Microsoft, the name is Jeffrey Snover, one of the smartest guys Microsoft's ever hired. He's now I don't know what the job title is, but he's in charge of running basically the Windows Server OS for making Azure and of course the on-prem core work. So guess what? And he loves PowerShell. So everything in Windows is now basically in PowerShell. So he's done a good job of making that all work together.
Because when I tried to learn it, I've learned it a little bit, but it seemed
Yeah.
it's similar to a basic or one of
Yeah,
these. It's non-compiled, right?
right.
It's
It's a
serial in
scripting
nature, it's
language. Yeah,
subroutines, that kind of thing. Yeah,
exactly. It's a scripting
right.
language. It is not a programming language. It is, like I said, it's very similar to the Bash shell and it has a syntax is probably more Python, similar to Python than anything else, or Perl kind of stuff for those who've been around and used a lot of Perl back in the
Oh
day.
yeah.
But it's still very different, and it's got a very Windows-centric syntax for a lot of stuff. So if you've been a Linux person all your life, some of the syntax is going to go, but we have all the toolkits up here. So the latest, 5.101 kind of stuff. We've added a few different things in the documentation. 5X is when we launched PowerShell Core, and with support for 4.6, .NET 4.6, kind of things. But the end of the day, you download it, you read the release notes, and of course, the documentation is the admin guide, which will walk you through most of the things you really need to know. A couple things about running PowerShell. Obviously, first things you got to do is do the install. Close my window. I
So
thought
show
I
of hands on the chat. How many of you have written at least one PowerShell script? I'm kind of curious. One, two, three, four. Yeah, a few. Okay, cool. You can put
yeah.
your hands down now. I was kidding.
So this actually machine is actually part of my demos, and I keep refreshing it, so I keep blowing up stuff. But you can see basically I've got PowerShell core installed here. Basically the download. If we actually get bored and we have time, I'll walk through the install process of it. But it's quite simple. This is the Tintri process, and then of course you need a scripting engine. For those who have used PowerShell on Windows, the PowerShell ISE integrated scripting engine or scripting whatever it stands for has been a great way for doing utilities for writing your scripts and doing it instead of just spending all your time at the command line. The problem is the ISC does not work with that. So now you got to use a tool like, say, here is basically called Visual Studio Code, kind of stuff, which I use for all my scripts now. And guess what? Here it is. You can go make it look just like ISC did for those who have years of experience with ISC. This is ISC, doesn't work with PowerShell 7 versus this does. All right. So we're at the slide where just to make sure I'm not forgetting to cover something. So yeah, set it up, scripting engine, cover it, all that. And then we're gonna go right in the demos of simple tasks. All right. So first things first, once you get done with it, actually let's go disconnect everything because I was testing my demos a little while ago. Let's see. All right. I'm gonna run a few commands for first just to make sure I've got everything cleaned up, which I don't. So let's go ahead and do this. This is those things when you play with your demos to make sure everything works good, you forget where you're at and then you have problems. Oh, I got to disconnect the 5040. Didn't even create the 5040 disconnect. There it is. I try to code everything ahead of time so I'm not typing in demos because sometimes I will mess up, and I find my typing ability is inversely proportional to the amount of people watching me type. So if it's myself, I type fantastic 40 words a minute. When I've got 60 people watching me, I'm like four and but yeah. All right. Enough of that.
We should do a study on that.
Yes, but it
John
definitely,
asked, can you use Eclipse PowerShell plugin?
yes, you can. And you can load it into, I'm okay, not 100% sure. I believe so. I haven't tested it. I'm assuming you can.
Is that like an ISE replacement, or
I
what is
actually
that?
don't remember what it is. I've seen it and I play with it, but yes.
Okay. John, if you can enlighten us, that'd be helpful. I had not heard of that.
Yeah. So for me, when I first load up PowerShell kind of stuff, I always go and make sure what version I'm running. In this case, I'm running 7.2, which is old. We're running 7.4 is the most version. I should go update, but I built my lab here a while ago and I just haven't updated it over time. All right, so once you're ready to go and once you get started, first thing I do is you import module. So now I have to go bring in the Tintri module, which has already been done. Because if I go do this command here, it's already there. So basically when I'm starting a new session though, this is loaded on your machine. You need to go after you do the install. You have to tell the shell engine you're using you want to go do it. If I'm just using the Tintri PowerShell module, it's already done, but I want to have other things from PowerShell involved. So I always bring it into my scripting engine and then have to load it here. This would be the command if I want to go bring in my VMware Power CLI modules as well that way, because most of my scripts, as I write longer and longer scripts, I tend to have the need to go pull out the VMware, run VMware commands and Tintri commands all into one giant script, versus just doing single scripts. So first thing you do, once I play with a new module, I always do the git command and git list what all my different things I can do are. So we have all these are the Tintri commands, and there you see there's a lot of different commands you can go do, or commandlets, what they call them. You can do different things, and we're going to play with a few of these today. But many things that you do from configuration wise of a VM store, your day-to-day tasks, there already is something in here that you can go mod or play, pool, whatever kind of stuff, and you can do it all from the command line, or however you want to do your scripting process. All right. Also, help's also a very important thing to do. With PowerShell, everything is going to be get help space within the command that you want to run. You can put the dash full, which gets you all the examples and the verbose version. If you don't do the full, you get the shorter version of it. To run just a select, and this, every engine's different, but with this, basically, F5 runs the entire script. F8 just runs what's highlighted. So I do a lot of F8s. For example, connect. And this is basically after I've installed everything and ready to go, I have to obviously connect to the VM store. And this is basically my examples of it. In this case, I'm just going to go ahead and connect to my 7080. I can connect the TGC or into the 7080. So it's just connect Tintri view server, host name and specified. I always prefer to specify the FQDN, the fully qualified domain name. It makes things work better overall because you can usually use just your common name or the IP address, but well, I run time bizarre problems here and there that an FQDN just fixes it. So when you're having an odd error, make sure you use that and then see if it goes away. So connecting, now I have to go type in, I'm connected to it. So this way I got my password. If it does require you to authenticate. All right, and that shows I'm connected. So now I get to go play with stuff. All right, here to go see get help, Tintri session servers, which basically is just this. We're gonna go see what we're connected to because a lot of times I'm doing systems, I'll connect to 2 or 3 different VM stores and 2 or 3 different TGCs. You can get convoluted on what you're connecting to, and this just helps you understand where you're all at.
And it's an extra argument, that you issue to say which connected device that I'm talking to, right?
Exactly.
So as you get
Yep.
further down, you just specify which one, but you can have multiple in parallel.
Exactly. And so basically one of the first commands everyone ever runs basically is get Tintri VM. Let's go ahead and run it. This returns me a list of all the VMs on this one's a 7080. So if you happen to have 3,000 VMs, this might take a while to return kind of process. Like here, I only have like 50, and it still takes a long time for a return. Unfortunately, it's because it's pulling a lot of data. Because it also goes out, you can see it returns the name of the VM, what hypervisor is attached to, which host it's running on, kind of stuff. What folder in VMware it is. So it's actually pulling this from my vCenter to go give this in my hypervisor path, kind of stuff. And so if you doing Hyper-V, if I'm doing VMware, it's pulling all the data into it. And the UUID is also an important thing for a lot of the commandlets. It's most simple. They actually prefer to use the UUID. So what it is, you have to do essentially get VM, pull the UUID to pass it to the next part of the script. And that probably works the simplest, even though none of my examples here do that. All my examples are basically all one-liner scripts that were doing just simple things. Um, this next line here is for me, I use a lot of times as I use to export the list off to, of all the VMs into basically a CSV file so I can go play with it later on. But for the demos next, we're going to go pull out, I'm going to play with my CRM4, my fourth CRM server. And this just gives more details for this. And it provides me just the details for, hey, I've got a clone one and, this, I have a wildcard. So a lot of things supports wildcards, not everything does. And it will tell you in the help process if it, because each command supports wildcards or not. But here, basically, I'm just showing this is the VM we're going to go play with for doing some different things here. So this goes out and pulls more data. So the VM flag here, for example, for Tintri VM, actually goes and pulls basically the same data, but it pulls more data and it validates that here, for example, the name flag, you have to go read through the help files again, actually specifies this is the name in VMware to help me understand what the name in the VM store is compared to what's actually in VMware. Because I can create a VM that they're going to have the names be a mismatch, which is always fun. It's mostly because you name the OS one thing, you call it and those kind of fun stuff. So that's what it does. It re-verifies everything for you.
And that's where UIDs become important because it disambiguates the
Yeah,
names, right?
exactly. So like one of the things like, with my testing, especially the database world and stuff, is every SQL server I have, I actually have whoops, I'm on the wrong TGC, but I actually have a database set that basically everyone has an AdventureWorks database. Well, I have 15 database servers, all have an AdventureWorks database. I now have a bunch of objects named AdventureWorks, but where they're located is the folder path process, which VM store, and keeping track of that comes very convoluted. You can do similar things with VMs, especially with the cloning process. Because you see on here cloned from is not, but it will later on. I'll show you a couple of VMs we look through. You'll see cloned from. It tells you what it came from, i.e., it came from a Windows template process. This one was deployed by a OVA, so I don't have a clone from. So cloning is one of the most common things people do with PowerShell, at least from talking to different people. And so that's why I figured I'd show this as an example. Once we're getting past just looking at data, let's go ahead and just run this. Click and F8. and it tells me all the information for that, and that's why I'm just kind of walking through what different things you can do. I should have done full because it provides a lot of details, but all the different syntax, all my help files are basically right here. For your Linux people, all your basically your man pages, you kind of stuff, it's all ready to go. But it creates a VM from a source, VM by specifying the snapshot. And by default, it uses latest snapshot, and you go through different parameters and how you want to do it. Like for example, here I am playing with one of the required things is the host resources. For me to do a clone, I need to have required C says true. I need to have the host resource. I need to know where in basically the virtualized world we're going to go put this clone. So I have to go pull that. So in this case, I did it by UUID, but I also did it by actually a display name of lab. What I mean by that is when I click here, it will tell me all this information, display name lab. What I mean by that is I'm going over into my vCenter now. And here's my data center called lab. And so when I'm now specifying this, they can now, instead of having to specify the host specifically, it's going to go into this area on my vCenter when I do registration for a clone process. All right. So what we're going to do basically is we're going to go create a clone. So specify the host. So we're going to find using my CRM4 VM, we're going to go ahead. My source VM is this. The host resource is what I'm going to go pull from. Basically, I'm going to say where I'm going to dump it at. So it's not related to the VM directly. And then what I'm going to call it. So I'm going to make a clone, call it leap day 2, because today's leap year, it's leap day. Run the process. It's in this process here, it's working. If I go over to here, register new VM, it's already done. That's how fast it goes. So if I go to CRM, clone 1 is now already here. This is the one I just created a clone for. No.
Yeah, so this part of the workflow will be important later because that
Yeah,
actually does the registration as part of the workflow,
exactly.
right? And there are some workflows you wouldn't want it to register, and we'll talk about
Correct.
that later. Right.
Yep. And here basically leap day process, leap day 2, the clone is there. This VM just got created, from this process. You can go read through all the different things in here, but yes, so that's how fast this thing works. I just go out, create it, and then it makes the clone for me. That way I now have a script I can just run when I need to. Obviously, I can make variables to go pass things in and out to make it where I want to kind of process. So now if I go look inside of the inventory, I go run selection. Hey, look, I can now see I actually have a VM this and what's this word slacks, doesn't show clone from, even though it will once it pulls some more data kind of stuff. The other thing is clone many. So we had Tintri clone. Now we have Tintri clone many. Here basically, I got to specify source name. So CRM4, like we did before. Still got that the same host resource. Clone count 20. So think these are my VDIs. Think this is some other dev process I'm going to go play. I need multiple copies. And then the base VM name. What I want to use as my naming scheme. I'm using leap day because of the theme of the system here. So right click, and we're going to go run this for F8. As it's running, I can now go over here, and we'll see all these things are completed. So if I go in here to search for leap, I now have 21 objects named leap in my vCenter. So I've just created 21 VMs that way. So I can quickly spin up things. You can do the same thing inside of the UI. This is now just in a script, so you can now run it into, again, a DevOps type pipeline or whatever kind of workflow that needs to have the different things out there. And that's what I want to show the power of this process.
I was going to say
Now,
it's pretty unusual for a customer that doesn't use these automation tools to be generating 20 clones at a time, 30 clones at a time. This is generally part of a
a
workflow or
workflow.
a pipeline, right?
Mhm.
Yeah.
Yes. And so I'm just showing you the different commands you can do when you put it in your pipeline process. Like for example, like for me, my demo here, here's actually a VMware script. What it is, I'm going to go through and find all the VMs that have a name of Leap in it. And then I'm going to go down here and then I'm going to go delete them all. Because one thing about the VM store, I can create VMs all day long, like clones. I can't delete them. So because we don't want you deleting stuff inside the VM store, we want you to go to the tool, i.e., vSphere or Hyper-V or whatever, to go do the deletion process. So for here, for example, and I'm a very small step scripting kind of person. I don't do a lot of passing through between my scripts a lot of times. So here, I'm just going to create basically a CSV of all my different VMs, and then that have them a name basically of Leap.
So
That's
Deepak
correct.
just asked, can the results be exported in a PDF or XLS format? I'm
They go
assuming about the output of the cloning. Is that what he's asking about? I'd
or
love some
just things on the
clarification.
screen. I think it's more things on the screen. So anytime I have all this data here, for example, I can put it out in a CSV format more than anything else, not into a PDF or XLS. But you
Okay,
can take your CSV, your comma separated values, and then import those into Excel very simply, or convert it into a PDF.
perfect.
All right. So here I'm just gonna go run the selection. I'm not connected to any servers. So yes, I must go out and connect to my VMware server here. And it has me ask, of course, I have to go log in. Smyers at, can you see? I can't type my own name, my inverse proportional typing.
Yeah, this is the inverse for four. Yeah, exactly.
Yeah,
So
my name I all the time, and then my password.
now I noticed we're 28 minutes into this. We haven't done any trivia yet.
Oh, we're getting there. Don't worry, because the next step is going to run for like 3 minutes or so, and we'll do a trivia.
Yeah, because you
Yeah,
can't really have a geek out without me trying to be a game show host.
exactly. All right, so this is done. So now I'm going to go run this part of the script. F8. Hey, look, now if I go over to here, because it's doing an export file, press 5, you see 1028, it's actual time, just ran, and it lists out all those 21 different leap day VMs in here. So now I am going to go here. This runs for a little bit because I'm going to, a lot of times I power them on. Part of my Tintri script over here, I'll basically create all the clones and then go through, connect the VMware, then power them all on. Here, obviously, I'm just a separate script, and then we're just going to go power them all off and then go delete them. So we're going to go run.
That was fast.
Well, because I didn't highlight the import to the CSV file
Yeah,
to use.
it was an empty array. There we
Uh-huh.
go.
And it's going to give me errors because it's, the shutdown command fails because you see a smart coder would go and put error handling, so basically, if powered on, shut down guest kind of stuff, and then go remove blah, blah, blah. For me, I just do shutdown guest. It gives me an error, then it goes to the remove. I'm just, again, I'm not a developer. I'm a lazy admin coder kind of stuff, which hopefully many of you guys are as well, because it helps you make things go faster. But you can see I'm down to 15 already. But while this runs in the background, let's go ahead and do a trivia question.
All right. So can't do geek outs without trivia, of course. So the format for today, and the reason why we're not doing slides for trivia is because I didn't want to tell Shawn what the questions were. Because I'm going to ask him what the question is, and then you guys, he's going to answer, and then you guys are going to say whether you agree or disagree, kind of like Hollywood Squares style. So the first question is,
Well, hold on. I was not
go ahead.
informed ahead of time, so I had no prep time for studying the possible questions.
You did not. So most of them are quantum leap related, and you mentioned that you're not quite a fanboy, but you're familiar with the show.
Hmm.
So some of the folks in the audience may be bigger fanboys than either one of us were. But this one actually has nothing to do with Quantum Leap. It has to do with when it was released. So on the day the original Quantum Leap debuted, who performed the number one song on the US Billboard chart? Was it? And I'll give you four choices.
Okay.
Was it the Bangles? Was it Mike and the Mechanics? Was it my personal favorite band of all time, Milli Vanilli? No, that's not true. That's not true. Or Roxette. So the Bangles, Mike and the Mechanics, Milli Vanilli, or Roxette.
You can't give me one. Okay, Milli Vanilli is the obvious not right answer. Uh,
Well, it might be.
yeah.
It might
Because
be.
when we have four, you always have the obvious, usually not right answer kind of stuff.
Well,
All right.
to be
So,
fair,
uh-huh.
so these were literally the top four songs that week.
Oh, really?
Yes, those were the top
Wow.
four. They may not be in the right order, but
Yeah.
those were the top four. So
I don't
yeah,
know for sure, but I'm
what do you
actually
think?
going to go with the Bengals because I'm guessing it's one
Bengals.
of the Egyptians.
Okay, okay.
That's my guess.
Who agrees with Shawn that it was the Bengals?
Well,
Let's see.
Mark Ray says yes.
Yeah. Mark's in with the Bengals. Yeah. Okay. Thomas says agree. Okay. Todd
Phil
says Phil
Collins.
Collins. That's not how this works, Todd.
It's Mike and the Mechanics, but yes, because Mike and the Mechanics was from Genesis with Phil Collins.
Uh, no. So it
Oh,
was a spin-off.
okay.
So yeah, so
Right.
one of the members of Genesis, Mike,
Yes.
ended up
Right.
forming Mike and Mechanics. Yes,
Right. Right. That's what I was saying, But yeah, he's from Genesis.
he is. He is. So the answer is Mike and Mechanics, by the way.
Oh, wow.
Living Years, great song from back in 1989, I believe.
Okay.
I think that's correct. March of '89. So Mike and
89?
Mechanics, do you hear me running? Yes, yes, great song, very nice. All right, so hopefully we killed a little time there with some trivia. We'll do more in a little bit. So all
Exactly. So as you
right,
see now, all those VMs are gone. So because basically for me, it's keeping my lab clean. Because if you go look at my lab, I'm horrible of I've got lots and lots of VMs that aren't doing anything because I make clones all the time for testing things and I don't clean things up properly. That's like not surprising for some people, I'm sure. All right, next thing we want to do some migrate some VMs. So one thing about migrating, so people go, well, why don't I just, vMotion it? Because you can vMotion it and does the same thing, except for when you migrate it, you can bring over the snapshots with you. So if I'm going from VMstore A to VMstore B, the snapshots are going to process. This may fail because of I was testing it back and forth earlier. If I go into, oh, I gotta love that TGC has a automatic timeout function. So no
are you
matter what I
saying
do,
there are demo gremlins, Sean? Is
that's
that
not a
what you're trying
gremlin.
to tell me?
That's a TGC issue because it has a timeout. If you let it sit for too long, it times out and you gotta re-sign in. No matter how often you go back into it, it's a like a 30-minute timeout after you sign in. It automatically
Something
logs
like that,
out.
yeah.
Yeah.
Right.
I'm in PM and I've asked to have that removed to make it adjustable, but no, it doesn't get prioritized.
Right.
But under tasks, you can see I've done these migrations a couple times already and they've been successful. But as I move back and forth with it, it takes a while for the snapshots to remove from the old one, the after I migrate it. So let's go.
So yeah, I don't want to gloss over this point because this is really important when you're moving things around inside your environment. If you have an SLA with your customers to make sure that snapshots are available for a certain amount of time for RPO objectives or whatever it may be, this is a really good tool to use because those snapshots are now available and can be utilized by the consumers or by the end users using all the Tintri goodness that we've talked about in other geek outs, right? So this is cool because now your snapshots aren't over on the source system; they're actually with the live VM. So this could be really big
Yeah,
if you're signed up to protect VMs in a certain way.
right. And then so if you actually go into the whole actually because of some of the interesting things with the way things work, I prefer to start off new scripts, even though it's a whole new area, by basically disconnecting everything. All right, I have nothing connected. We're good. And then we're going to connect to all of these, my 6070, my TGC, and my 7080, which also means I have to. There's actually a way to do the connection command to connect to multiple servers at one time, and then it all have the same creds. It would automatically work. In this case, I don't have the same creds.
We're going to make you type your password
I have three
multiple
times.
times, three different times, three different passwords, no less.
Well, two different passwords, but yeah, but three
Shh,
times because
don't
I
tell
don't
anybody.
share. Yeah. Oh, I guessed wrong.
Boo.
All right, so now I have to go back and figure out what I didn't connect to. So run selections. I am connected to my TGC.
And
Only
that's it.
TGC?
The
Interesting.
joy of interactive scripting.
Yes. And the fun part is if I start typing now, it deletes my line up here, and I have to control Z to get my commit whoops, my command back, which is really annoying because you have to click down here to start typing the password. That's more of a engine process than anything else. All right, 70 is connected. And let's go connect to the 6070. It's actually faster to hit the keyboard, but the F8 to run it. Or if you want to, you can click this button in this scripting engine to run your F8s. There's many ways to do everything with PowerShell.
Yes, you can pass the passwords if you really want to.
Exactly.
Uh, wouldn't recommend it.
Well, especially for me, since
You
I'm
can pull
showing you
them
my
from
host
credential
name.
stores and stuff if you like, but
Yeah.
Yeah.
especially since I'm showing my host names and I don't want to show you my credentials and my passwords because then once you get my network, I'm compromised, and so that's why I always have to type them in because that's just the way I work. All right, and of course, like anything else here, I can go route through all my different commands. So let's go back here and see, make sure which ones I'm connected to properly here. Hey, look at that! I've got all three of them listed now.
Perfect.
All right. So we're going to play with this one. So we're just going to verify this actually works properly, get VM kind of stuff, run selection. Shows we're on the 6070. So it tells me I'm going to go do this. So this what it is. I have two commands because I'm moving back and forth over time. I wrote it both ways to move each way. And this may fail. We're going to go find out. But in the days, geek up migrate. Let's do one VM. There are a way to do flags. I can either create like a list CSV and just loop through them all. I can do it by service group. I can actually even do it by directory in VMware. So like that lab thing, anything in a lab, I can have migrate. I can use vSphere tags as my specification. So I can specify if I had 40 VMs that are tagged one way, I can migrate all those at one time. I can even do the entire data store. So if I have a new VM store and I want to move everything from my old, 880 to my brand new 7080, I can write this over and I'll just start doing one by one kind of stuff. Or I can
Super handy for evacuations, migrations. Oh yeah, super
now
handy.
I'm
We
gonna
use this
say,
all the time.
yeah, this is I think still serial. So you can do is create multiple sessions through whatever tools you want to create multiple sessions and now run them in parallel. Now, saying that it works better and worse at the same time because when I do it parallel, obviously I can easily saturate the network connection and or slow down my production VM. So you got to be careful on how much load and how much parallelism you put in place to make sure you don't cause other issues. So do what
Yeah, I don't want to
you
get too nerdy on that topic, but I think it's an important point because we're basically doing standard storage vMotion with one exception, and that is we're doing the copy, right?
yes, we're doing the
And we'll
copy
take the
and we're bringing the
snapshots with it.
snapshots over.
So
So
the
this
rest
it's
of the
bigger.
workflow is the same.
Exactly.
Yeah. Hmm. Hey, look at that. Demo gremlins.
Yeah. Actually, so we're gonna love this one. The PowerShell has some interesting, bizarre, things that hang in memory that I don't like. And sometimes just doing this and reloading it will actually solve the problem. So we're going to try that.
Hey, while we're doing that, I'm going to ask another trivia question. You know what we'll
Sure.
do? We'll open this up to everybody. How many doctoral degrees did Sam Beckett hold? I won't give you choices. Just throw it out there. So in the show, how many doctoral degrees did he have? Just throw it in the chat and see what happens.
Here's my guess.
Your guess is three.
3.
Okay. It's a lot of doctoral degrees.
I know.
It's three more than I have. Any guesses out there? People are frantically looking it up. That's not fair. Come on, that's not fun. Actually, it's kind of hard to find, actually. I had to dig pretty deep for this one. John says 4. Thomas says 5. That's a lot. Think about the amount of work it would take to defend one thesis, let alone 5. That's crazy.
My dad's got 5 degrees, but only one doctorate. So,
Yeah, doctorate degree is a different deal.
yeah.
That's a totally different deal because you have to come up with something unique, right?
Yeah.
That's
I'm
hard.
a slacker and I only have a bachelor's compared to his 5 degrees.
Yeah. Well, that's a lot of work. I'm not disparaging that amount of work, but
Yeah.
doctoral
See,
degrees are a whole different animal.
I
So
crashed
Michael
it
says
here.
2. So your guess was 3, right? So you have a 2, a 3, and a 4, and a 5.
Yeah. So, Steve, so
Yes.
we're going to go back onto this real quick while
Okay.
we're waiting for others to chime in. So, yeah, all I did is restarted it, reconnected it, and now it's going to work fine. You know, Again, this is more if I think my ISC, my scripting engine than anything else. It's not PowerShell per se. It's that. And um, but here migration's happening. It's going to tell me, hey, look, I'm going to go from the 6070 to the 7080, kind of stuff. And it's going to migrate snapshot, yes. It's going to offload, yes. And it's going to use my replication IPs. I can specify all those things to make it do other things if I want to. And of course, I have to go, it's doing a prompt here because I want to show it versus, you can also have the prompt be automatic. And now it happens. I switch back over to TGC. You'll see my tasks will now go to 5 with one running. So now I can see that it is actually moving, the processes and stuff. All
And
right.
if you really want to know, you can pull down that little arrow and it shows you all kinds of extra detail.
Oh
about
yeah.
exactly what it's doing, which is nice.
Hmm.
So,
And so now we can continue on because this takes about 3 to 5 minutes.
okay. So we had a 2, a 3, and a 4, and a 5 on the doctoral question. All good guesses. The answer is 7. So
Wow.
I know. So seven doctoral degrees. Now I get that it's a TV show. I get it. But so the question is, did he leap into people to get the degrees? Right? I don't know. Is that because that's kind of cheating, right? So if you leap into somebody and you have the degrees already, did he count those things? I don't know. But
No,
the
he
seven
did not.
degrees were music, medicine, quantum physics, archaeology, ancient languages, chemistry, and astronomy. That's what you call a Renaissance man right there. That's pretty impressive.
Yeah. So all this is running. Next thing too, other examples. Tintri GitHub. We actually have a whole section on this with all kinds of big detailed scripts like cloning and stuff. It actually has a nice long script with error handling and other things kind of stuff just to get you started on this. For Veeam workflow integration processes, we have some cool stuff here to do different things. So lots of different stuff. Delete snapshots, kind of stuff you need to get space. Lots of different samples. Not all of them. We don't have one for every commandlet, but we do have quite a few up here, including how to do your upgrades from we can do multiple upgrades or parallel upgrades all in one little process here. Yeah.
So John asked, so we're using the Tintri network to move storage instead of storage to motion. The answer to that is yes. That's precisely what we're doing. There are several advantages to that. Not the least of which being that VMware, my understanding is it does a bit for bit copy when you're copying things, and therefore, if you have things that are, for example, thick provision with a bunch of zeros in it, it copies all the zeros. So it can clog up your network and so forth. Whereas we use our replication technology to move the data. So it's going to be compressed and deduplicated before it's moved. And on top of that, you also have the snapshots moved over with it. So as you can see there, is it done? Did it
Yeah,
finish?
it's
Yes,
completed.
it finished.
So,
Okay.
so now if I go over to all managed objects and Geek, so migrate. Ooh, I got a policy error. Interesting. I'll show that one later. But I got my snapshots. You can still see that I have snapshots in both locations. And over time, what it is, they'll clean up because it only sits on one side, and the other ones will expire off because they all have an expiration date assigned to them. So once these expire off, they'll disappear. But so there's I actually have both copies of snapshots on both systems for a little period, for a short period of time.
So this is a feature that I think doesn't get enough attention. I think this is really cool.
Yeah.
And it's something that's fairly unique to us. I don't know anybody else that does this to this level of simplicity. You may have some workflows that do some similar things, but in terms of just, I mean, if you want to just point and click and do it, you can do it. If you want to schedule them, you can do that too. Do it based on a service crew for evacuations. This is super handy for a number of reasons. So thank you for showing that.
Oh,
That
no
that seemed
worries.
to generate some interest in the folks that are watching. That's what we try to do here.
Yep. All right. Next one we're going to do restore a VM. So we're going to go here and play with this bad boy. This is, one I actually, if we actually had time or we had questions about installing, I would actually, it's ready for a demo to do the install. So it's all done prior to, nothing's installed on this one. So we're just going to go create a file on it real quick, you know, and then we're going to not worry about it. We're not connected to anything, so let's go ahead and connect to this bad boy, which I've managed to cache the certificate on a process kind of stuff. So now I'm only using just one VM store. But we're gonna do a restore basically here. Same concept. It's fairly simple stuff. I'm gonna use the latest snapshot. I can specify, go find the right one. And then here I'm gonna go dump it out into a different directory. So the cool thing is we don't let you delete certain things, i.e., you can't go delete a VM from our PowerShell toolkit. You have to go to VMware to go delete things. So we don't want you we don't give you keys to go break things in an automated fashion. We'll let VMware do that because we don't want to ever do this. So in this case, since I'm going to do a restore of it, unlike using sync VM processes, it actually creates a new VM and then I can just rename them kind of process. So I'm just going to go run this script. and basically it's done. So now if I go over to VMware,
So to be precise, it's not really creating a VM, right? So
correct.
you're not creating a VM until you register it,
Right. Sorry. Yes, you're right. So yeah.
right?
Yep.
That's kind of the key here. That's what I mentioned earlier, because you're able to expose the data that makes up a VM at a certain point in time, but you're
Right.
not actually registering it.
Yep. So the Geek Out demo, i.e., this one, is running as, oops, I got overly click happy. And nested windows are always my bane of my existence. So this is the one that's actually running right now. So if I actually go back over to Geek Out demo 2, this one's actually actively running right now. And versus what it is, if I want to revert back to that process, if I just actually, we're going to right click and we're just going to shut this thing down because I'm going to go toss it. So, and power off. None of this whole shutdown. I'm lazy. And then, of course, go into here and delete from disk because I could leave it on it, but we're going to delete that one. So, that VM here, which I was on, it no longer exists. It's going to take 30 seconds for that to go. You get rid of. But now I can go into 5040, my folders here, and that Geek Out demo 2 is gone, and now I have demo 1 here, or just demo, and I can just go and select the VMX file and register VM, and I can call it what I want. Obviously it came from a template, my gold template from Windows Server 19, but this is going to be, and then next, and then where I want to go put it at, and I'm not picky, but we're going to go put it on this one anyways. Yes, all my hosts have hardware problems. That's a whole different discussion. I got new ones, but I haven't migrated everything yet. That whole finding time to do stuff like most of you have.
It's a lab. There will be red dots.
Exactly. I break
Yes.
a lot of things on purpose.
Get used to it. There'll be red dots.
Yep. Come on. So Geek Out demo, it's not powered on right now, so and it's ready to go. When I go to power it on, of course, one of the cool things about this recovery process, oops, I double hit it. No, I know, because what it is wait for me to answer the question. So I go to the new view, it says, hey, answer the question. Did I cancel it, move, do I want to cancel this process? I moved it or I copied it. So if you copy it, it's going to generate a new ID. Here, though, since I don't want to use a new UUID because it's a restore, I want to specify I moved it so it doesn't, generate a new UUID for the VM. So any other workloads I have will still work for this, which is also why we built this way, because it's very critical for some people in certain scenarios to maintain or preserve the VMware's UUID.
Yes, that's huge. Licensing depends on it. Windows activation depends on it to some degree.
Yep.
There's all kinds of stuff that gets broken when you start changing that. And so when you're doing a restore in this way, maintaining that UUID is huge. And that's why this technique is so cool.
Yep.
Um, because it gives you that option to be able to recover something as it was, not cloning it. And there are some situations where that becomes really critical.
And you can see I've got this VM back up. Even though I'm using DHCP, because my snapshot was close enough kind of stuff, when I restored it wise, it still had this, this one still thinks it has the same reservation and uses the same IP, and it comes back up automatically to allow me to go do what I want to. And of course, once I get to here, you notice that text file I had is gone, but everything else is the same. And I have this unplanned outage because I didn't do crash consistent. Can you do crash consistence? Of course you can. But I just didn't do it in my scripting processes. In my snaps, were not crash consistent. But
Are you referring
that,
to application consistent?
yes,
Where it freezes the VM? Yeah, you
correct.
can do that if you like. Yes.
Yeah. All right. I
Otherwise,
think
it's going to be like
now
you
it's
pulled
time
the
for
plug.
another good trivia question.
Okay, so I got one more. I got one more. So this might be tough if you haven't watched the show, but Sam's last leap happened at the end of season 5 of the show. Normally he would leap into somebody, and it's usually, a situational thing, or he leaps into somebody famous or whatever, right? Who
Uh-huh.
did he leap into last?
Wasn't it himself right before he had the experiment go wrong?
I don't know, was it?
That's what I remember. But then again, it's been 30 years since I've
Who
watched it.
who who agrees with Shawn? Shawn says he leaped into
Oh,
himself. That'd be kind of tough, but
Eric does not agree with me, obviously.
Eric does not agree with you.
Yes.
Eric says Clint Hill, Secret Service agent. That's what he said. So he disagrees. Okay.
But he says,
Anybody
ooh.
else who remembers the show? It's kind of a cool concept, right? I mean, I'd hate to jump into myself. That'd be kind of bizarre. So Thomas agrees. Thomas thinks you're right.
Yeah.
Himself in the bar. Okay, well, if you're gonna go, you're gonna go, right?
Hmm.
Let's leap into yourself in the bar. That brings up a lot of kind of paradoxical questions. How do you leap into yourself? How does that work? Because that makes time very nonlinear.
Well, leaping period
So
is just complicated and
it is
convoluted.
complicated. You're right. It is. Nobody else? I don't know. Maybe we don't have that many Quantum Leap fanboys on the show today.
Well, it's possible. I mean, it wasn't like it's a massive show. I mean, so here's the kind of a joke though. So like, Steve. So, fans of Star Trek, what are they called?
Trekkies.
All right. So fans of Doctor Who are
Whovians.
exactly. Fans of Firefly or Serenity, the TV
Ooh.
show.
Ooh,
They're called
that's tough.
they're called browncoats.
Brown coats.
Yes. And so they
Okay.
have a name for people who are fans of like Supernatural, that show on CW for a long time. So
Okay.
what do they call fans of Star Wars?
Uh, Jar
Normal
Jar?
people. No, normal people.
Normal. Oh
Hope I
boy.
didn't offend anybody with delving into sci-fi
That's
process.
funny.
Yeah.
Okay. That's
But
cool.
there's not a name for
I'm
saying,
sure somebody came up with a word that's not normal people,
well, yeah. I mean,
right?
there's people for the 501st, kind of
Far,
stuff.
far
And
awayans or something. I don't know.
yeah,
Whatever.
I mean,
Who
yeah,
knows?
there's people who joined the 501st Legion and that kind of stuff. But that's not, a group or an identifier, like I'm a Trekkie, kind of stuff. And so yeah, there's
Okay.
not for Star Wars. So the
That's a
last
good
thing I'm
one. I
going to
like that.
cover is a Jedi. There actually is a
Yes.
official religion registered by somebody of the Church of Jedi.
Oh, jeez. By the way, let me answer the question. Shawn,
Oh,
you were correct. It was himself.
okay.
So good
I
job,
told you
Thomas.
I remember it, but yeah.
Yeah.
All right,
So
so
now
let's
everybody's going to be reaching out on Netflix or whatever covers it. So
yeah.
I want to say it's season 5, episode 22. I
All
think
right.
that's right. So
So this is a
it's kind
script.
of like skipping to the end of a book, right?
Yeah.
If you've never seen the show, it's like, okay.
It's still interesting.
But
That's the cool thing with the show, though, is everyone is completely. I mean, there is some storyline, but most of them are independent, and you can watch it and not be lost, and still enjoy the show. Versus some
yeah,
show,
there wasn't a huge overreaching arc,
yeah,
right? It
and
was kind of like X-Files Monsters of the Week episodes. They did have
yeah,
an arc, but it was not every show.
yeah,
So, right.
yeah. We call them Freak of the Week, but yeah, Freak of
I
the
like
Week.
that.
I prefer the Freak of the Week over the overall big picture X Files stuff. But that's a
Yeah,
whole different discussion. Maybe I'll do an X
that's a
Files
different one.
later on.
That'd be fun. That's a good idea.
I love X Files.
X-Files themes. That's cool. So I was much more into that show than I was Quantum Leap. Much
Yeah,
more.
because the truth
So,
is out there. So, Steve,
yes.
this is your script. So, walk through it real quick with me.
Okay, so this
Oh,
script was written for a customer of mine who basically wanted to do SRM light. So they didn't want to pay for SRM, which is very expensive, but they wanted to do something similar using Tintri technology. And by similar, what I mean is, can you take a VM, fail it over to the other side in case of a disaster, check to see if it's running on one side. If it's not, cool, we can go ahead and register it, bring it up or whatever, and reverse the replication path back to the other side so that when the source came up again, it would be able to replicate back to the source for DR for your new fire drill, location, right? So I just said, you know what? I took that as a challenge back a while ago, and I said, you know what? I have really never written PowerShell before. So I said, how long would it take me to go write a script that actually did this? And I would say between 6 and 8 hours of just debugging and playing around, I actually had it working. So that's what this is. So I am not the most elegant coder in the world, as you can see. Those of you who are probably, PowerShell people are probably like cringing, like, what is this guy doing? So you just define the variables here, go down and scroll down a little bit. And then you go in and define kind of what your environment looks like. So here's all my credentials. Obviously, the passwords are taken out, but in the real script, the passwords are in there. I just passed them because I'm lazy as all get out. So pass all that stuff in there. And then as you can see here, we load the modules in. I did do some error checking.
Yeah,
Shawn.
this one, yeah,
So
doesn't work anymore, by the way, so you need to
yeah,
update
yeah.
that.
Although this is very dated, but
Oh yeah.
fine. So did do some error checking on, can you connect to things? If not, tell you what's going on, et cetera, et cetera. And then once you're connected, everything basically what it does, it grabs the inventory of VMs, figures out what the unique identifier of the group of VMs that you want is or are. So it puts that into an array. And then what it does is it checks to make sure that those VMs are not running. Because if they are running, that causes some issues because the UUID can be the same on both sides. And you really don't want that. So it does some checking for that. Removes them from inventory on the source if they're not already. Does the restore Tintri VM there, which is right below that, which is what Shawn just showed in terms of exposing that directory that contains the snapshot, the snapshotted VM into the live file system so that it can then be registered. It then figures out where the VMX file is, goes ahead and registers it, powers it on, and then reverses the snapshot schedule back to the other side. So as you can see here, with all the commentary and spaces and everything else, it's about 100 lines of code. It's not much. The actual code is probably what, 20 lines, 30 lines?
Nah,
If
you
you
got
really
50,
wanted to compress it,
so
something like that,
50.
it's not
Yeah,
bad.
you got
Yeah, if
50.
you take out all the variable definitions and all that kind of stuff,
Yeah.
right? So it's pretty tight actually. Now, is this
Mhm.
as good as SRM? No, but it's an example of something that you can orchestrate as somebody who was a total beginner on PowerShell at the time, and I could put it together in a few hours, right? So and the customer actually liked this. They were like, "This is really cool," and they ended up using this as part of their workflow. So
Yeah. Now, of course, any script we provide you with samples of are use at your own risk. We do
yes,
not support, scripts like this from that
thank you.
perspective. If the command's not working, we support it, obviously, but we don't support the logic and the workflows. We can't. It doesn't scale well.
Don't at me. Like
Yes.
if it causes issues, I think I put a little disclaimer at the top, but
Uh-huh.
don't at me,
Yep.
right?
And
We'll
demonstrate.
answer questions on it,
Demonstrate.
etc.
Yes.
Right,
Yeah.
right. So with that, I know we're coming up to the top of the hour. Shawn, any closing comments from today? This has been a really great session.
Yeah. The other day is I just want to make sure everyone understands that as Steve showed here, PowerShell scripting is a very powerful process. You can do some amazing things in any kind of workflow that you guys do on a regular. Anybody works on a regular basis. It probably can be automated. So think about what can be done. Look through the different things, and of course, work with your SEs for some ideas. Obviously, all their SEs don't know PowerShell and this kind of stuff, but as you heard Steve said, they can get you some ideas and point you in the right direction while you do most of the work. From the concepts of how we make a workflow simpler and i.e. less admin time.
Absolutely, great, and we some great examples in here. So thank you, Shawn, for that.
No problem. Thank
Appreciate you
you.
being on as always. Again, don't add us if you don't get an email saying you want a switch. So we'll go the don't at me theme. Happy Leap Day, everybody. We appreciate it. We'll do this in 4 years, I guess. Is there one in 4 years? I think so.
Yes, we'll scale on
It's
for
not
years.
every 4 years, right? It's kind of a weird thing where it's not
Oh,
every
there,
4 years. But
no, it's every 4 years.
we skipped one
No, we did. We
a few
did
years ago.
in
Yeah,
2000.
yeah, we skipped one once. Yeah,
Yeah. Well,
yeah,
it's not a full day, but yeah, that's a whole different trivia process.
yeah. That's the whole thing. So happy Leap Day. Thanks for joining us today, and we will see you next month. Watch your inbox. We got a really cool thing we're putting together. We'll put the details in your inbox if you subscribe to our our notifications about Geek Outs. Please do, and watch this space. And we'll see you in March. Thanks everybody, and have a great Leap Day.